Before you go solar and you are in California, let me tell you what happens when they destroy your life, your home, your property, your business, your health and finances. This is my story in Southern California. If this and the upcoming videos help one person, just one person, to think twice and possibly consider waiting until there are actual consumer protections in place, then it'll be worthwhile. Like I said, if you think there are consumer protections, watch this video and the ones to come, which deal with all the departments, offices, media, and the state officials I reached out to for help. It is nearing the 6-year mark since the solar panels were installed, and I have no resolve.
6 years this April.
In April 2017, the solar installer approached me about a lease to install solar panels on my home. I'm what is known as a house hacker. My business is, or rather was, to rent corporate suites to executives, nurses, and other professionals coming into the area on contract. Now my suites are toxic with mold and mildew, and the ceilings are caving in. When the installer approached me, I explained to him my needs, provided years of past electric bills, which showed the tenants' demand for electric. I was promised a system that would produce more than my tenants could ever possibly demand. Before signing the lease, I did my due diligence. I researched the company on the internet. I searched them on Better Business Bureau site. I checked their license with the State Contractors Licensing Board, the CSLB. No red flags. I had 2 recommendations from a friend and an acquaintance. Everything looked good. Although the lease cost for the system was more than what the majority of my monthly bills were, I was looking forward to a total elimination of my electric and SDG&E rate increases in exchange for a known monthly payment due, enabling me to control a significant cost to my business. 50 panels were installed. What I didn't and couldn't know at the time was that they would install a dangerous, inefficient, and fraudulent solar PV system. From the beginning, the solar system was unable to cover my electric costs as promised. In January of 2018, after a significant rainstorm, I discovered that my roof was leaking under the sections where the solar panels were installed, causing damage to the subroofing, joists, and interior drywall. I contacted the solar provider, one of the largest in the country, and this began an experience in frustration, unresponsive customer service, changing stories, and outright lies. This company's customer service is based overseas. The representatives follow a script. Anything that goes outside of that script is not handled. Promised callbacks from supervisors never happen.
Customer service call going very wrong.
I have an email from one of their senior customer service supervisors stating that all payments would be suspended until a resolve for my problems was found. The solar provider has since extorted a good faith payment by threatening my credit and still claim I am delinquent in my payments. I attempted to refinance my home in an effort to pay for legal fees mounting in the civil case I brought against the provider and installer. The provider has a UCC fixture lien on my property that needed to be lifted in order to proceed with the refinance. The provider refused to do so unless I paid off the system in full. $109,937.92. Another attempt to refinance was denied by the lender due to the extensive damage done to my home by the solar installers. In addition to all the physical damage done to my home, the solar companies have ruined me financially, as well as taking down my business and freezing me out of accessing my home equity. During my first go-round with CSLB, the solar provider seemed genuinely scared of the CSLB. The first investigator was in direct contact with the executive customer service rep assigned to me after a letter to the then CEO. Purportedly, he asked the CSLB investigator what it would take to make me go away. He even left a voicemail message informing me that the damage was their fault and that they would be taking care of it.
We have changed our stance that the installation is actually what caused your roof leaks.
Since the CSLB shut down the case, the solar provider reneged on their responsibility and nothing has ever happened. What I couldn't know is that the solar provider has no interest in making things right. Their game is to delay and obstruct, run out the clock on the statute of limitations, run out the homeowner's wallet by prolonging court cases. I also couldn't know that the county inspector, senior building inspector, would approve the permit allowing install of the solar PV system that has caused over an estimated $100,000 in damage to my home, ruined my business by making more than one suite unrentable due to water damage, or that my costs for electric would be substantially more than what I was paying before solar installation. When after much effort in trying to contact the inspector, and before I was informed of the severe electrical problems that had been caused with the installation, my intent at the time was to obtain a copy of the plan submitted to county for approval. A plan that should have been provided to me, but they failed to do so. He informed me that he had nothing to do with the solar installation because all he inspected was electrical.
That is not my job.
What I mentioned that I must have missed him when he came to my property for the inspection. I'm always on site since the property is my home and business. He told me that if he signed the permit, he must have been here. He also informed he did not have a copy of the submitted plan and doubted any copy existed. He was wrong. A copy did exist and I obtained it. Electrical violations of the plan are: the rails holding the solar panels were not grounded. This creates an electrocution hazard, as well as making the house a lightning rod. Trunk cables are laying on the roof instead of being secured under the rails. This can cause electrical shorting, damaging the inverters. We'll talk about inverters later. Romex was used for solar string wiring. This is a fire hazard. The submitted and approved plan stated that they would use two number 10 and bare number 8 grounding wire. The wires are not labeled as solar circuit as required. The LB fitting into the main panel, not sealed as required. This is a leak hazard. As we know, water and electricity do not mix. Most egregious, the plan described the house's 200 amp center feed electric service panel as a top feed panel. The center feed panel is not compatible with the solar PV system and should have been replaced with a solar capable panel and downgraded from 200 amps to 150 amps. Even if it was not part of the county inspector's job description to get on the roof to inspect the solar panels, electrical wiring, it is his job description to inspect the main electrical service panel, which is on ground level with clear and easy access. The question is, why didn't he see these flagrant, dangerous violations of the submitted approved plan? Either he is completely incompetent.
He is incompetent.
Or he was never on the property to actually inspect the electric service panel. The county now indicates it's a workmanship issue. After getting the runaround with the manufacturer, I filed suit against both the licensed dealer, installer, and manufacturer. My attorney attempted to serve with a letter of rescission, which was returned to him as undeliverable. He did mention the rescission of the contract in the first amended complaint and again in a letter to opposing counsel. Manufacturer never responded to the rescission of contract, and my attorney took no further action regarding it. With no offer on the table, my attorney forced me into a pointless and unsuccessful mediation. He also failed to get the manufacturer served. After the mediation failed, the suit continued in court, and the judge ignored California case law, Cabotet versus Sonova, and is compelling arbitration. In the same hearing, the judge approved my attorney's motion to withdraw, leaving me unrepresented with arbitration looming. As of today, neither side has taken any action to initiate arbitration. No further action has been taken since February 2022. The County of San Diego and inspector were not named in the above suit. The Contractor State Licensing Board, CSLB, were also investigating with dealer, installer, and manufacturer and indicate they would be scheduling an administrative hearing. Twice they have closed the case. Second time due to statute running out. First time for lack of evidence. Their inspector never got on my roof or in the attic, and I was told to stop putting things in writing. It was complicated.
It's complicated.
Between July 2019 and June 2020, the CSLB received 1,067 solar complaints. This workload is in addition to all other contractor complaints that the agency has to deal with. Outside of the workload of CSLB, the agency is not a consumer protection agency in the traditional sense. The CSLB's mission, according to their website, is the Contractor State License Board protects consumers by regulating the construction industry through policies that promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the public in matters relating to construction. The agency, if it decides that action is warranted against the offending contractor, pursues that contractor on the CSLB's behalf, and the penalties are in the form of license suspension, termination, CSLB legal costs, and fines. There is no recourse for compensation or restitution to the victimized consumer through the CSLB. As of today, my complaint to the CSLB has been in process for almost 3 years. During the installation, they didn't just remove the existing pool heating system already on the roof. They stole the system and left PVC conduit dangling from the roof, a large piece of which fell off. Thankfully, no one was injured. The remaining conduit and fasteners still remain attached to the house. Violations of building code. The plans created and submitted to the county are many and are as follows. Number 1. They falsified the plans submitted to the county for the solar system, thereby obtaining approval on false pretenses. The filing of the falsified plans is a violation of California Penal Code 115. The inspector who signed off on the permit was a senior building inspector. It was only upon inspection by a court-appointed expert witness in 2020 that I became aware of the fraudulent documents submitted to the county. This includes misrepresenting the nature of the main service panel at my property, which allowed them to install the system with purported city approval and without incurring the substantial costs of upgrading the electrical service to the property, as would be required had the service panel been accurately represented in the plans defendants submitted to the city. Number 2, they failed to upgrade the electrical service to my property and home as required by building codes and industry standards. This left the service incapable of safely handling the solar system's output, overburdening the service panel and attendant wiring, and creating a dangerous risk of overheating, short-circuiting, and fire. We've already had one flash fire. The installer tried to scratch out the evidence. This health and safety hazard has been identified to both parties, but they've refused to correct it. Number 3, they installed different and cheaper stanchions and racketing than required by the plans and manufacturer's requirements, saving money and costs, but leaving dozens of unprotected penetrations throughout my roof, resulting in water intrusion, interior water damage, and mold. Number 4, they installed the solar panels with insufficient separation for thermal expansion, creating destructive pressure and torque on the supporting roof penetrations and further allowing water intrusion, creating interior water damage and mold. Number 5, during installation, they stacked heavy materials and tools against existing roof vents, destroying their waterproofing and resulting in water intrusion, interior damage, and mold. Number 6, they broke many roof tiles during installation without replacing them. Number 7, the solar system is physically incapable of generating the promised power. Number 8, they installed the system with microinverters they knew to be defective and incapable of processing the solar panel's raw output, thereby reducing usable output even further. Number 9, they left unmarked, unsecured, and unsafe wiring on my roof and in my attic. Number 10, they disconnected a major HVAC return duct in the attic, redirecting into the attic the heating and air conditioning intended for living areas. Number 11, they knew at the time of installation that my roof had insufficient remaining lifespan to warrant a 20-year solar lease, but they failed to disclose this fact to me and the fact that re-roofing later would be much more costly. Number 12, have been denied funding for refinancing because of the substantial damages due to the installation of my property by the solar installers. Number 13, their installation voided the warranty. I have contacted well over 100 attorneys looking for representation. Some of those contacted replied, "Wow, that's a mess. You need an attorney." And here I thought I was talking to an attorney. I've also been told that no case is 100%, but yours is 100%, yet they failed to take the case. Others never reply to my inquiries. The few that get in touch and go deeper into the case with me all eventually back out due to the mess my first attorney made of my case. My first attorney was incompetent in this field, despite his firm's advertisement that solar fraud is one of its practice areas. Trying to pay the attorney and expert fees, trying to get a resolve, has effectively bankrupted me. Each time I learned more, and how bad the situation is made me physically ill. The underproduction was bad enough. Then there was the roof leaks and all the water damage. When the roofing and solar expert submitted his report, and I found out how badly the install was, not to code, how dangerous, how the solar panels are an electric and fire hazard waiting to happen, it made me more ill. I cannot look at my home for more than 20 years now without seeing all the damage done, both physically to my home, but financially, ruining my business and bankrupting me with attorney's fees. I very rarely step outside, so I don't have to see the solar panels festering on my roof. I am told to repair the damage will require demolition of the roof, under the panels, down to the interior drywall, in order to mitigate the mold and mildew, repair trusses, replace the subroofing, replace the concrete shingles. This could take over 6 months or more. And because it is a demo, I and any remaining tenants cannot be here. This would be the final nail in my business coffin. No tenant will come back after 6 months, living and setting up somewhere else. I cannot imagine how or where I would be able to set myself up and live my life somewhere else for maybe as long as a year and then pack everything back up again and come back. This is not my house. It is my home. My life, my business is here. 20 years of landscaping, remodeling, decorating, all to make this my own, all taken away, ruined by the solar company's greed, the court system's inequities, the indifference of the county and state officials and agencies whose job it is and was to protect consumers. I've reached out for help to 4 of the local news stations and major local newspaper, to the county district attorney, the state attorney general, and they have referred me back to the CSLB, who, as I've stated earlier, has closed their case and is waiting to see what happens in the civil matter, which has been stalled out since February 2022. As for the microinverters, they knew or should have known that they installed microinverters that were faulty. They never gave me a choice about proceeding or paying for equipment they installed that was faulty, and had, unbeknownst to me, microinverters on back order for over a year. It doesn't matter which company they are. They all use the same boilerplate contracts. They all play the same game. I've been told to be quiet and not broadcast this. Well, I'm done being quiet now. There are others whose lives have also been ruined, like mine. They stole not only my pool solar, but the last productive years of my life, my security, business, and savings, and all hopes for future. They blew it up. They knew how to do this right. They chose not to. Any organization that is designed to protect consumers has failed miserably. The legal system has failed me miserably as well. And no, I will not be silent any longer. Here it is. This is what rooftop solar fraud looks like. And for those of you that have had a great result, I think you're very fortunate. And I hope for your sake you don't have hidden problems show up in the future. My problems just keep growing. The longer this debacle goes on, the worse the problems become. I live in fear my roof is going to cave in. It's a matter of when. Help us get the word out. It may save one unsuspecting homeowner or business owner from ruination. And you may ask, why would they do this? The simple answer is because they can.